have mercy, look at how the time goes.
And welcome everybody to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with Jon Allen. I am Jon Allen, and today I have with me the legend, the one and only Mr. Jon Gjerde.
Thank you.
We call him the heart of comedy in the city of Drammen.
Oi, that's nice words.
That's what you are, though. Wow. That's what you are. You are the central figure for the stand-up scene in Drammen. I was in Oslo just a couple of days ago with Steinar Doltvedt and his show over there.
Good.
Hello, Steinar. And everybody, so many people asked me about you, telling me to tell you, different comedians that were there, different people in the audience who know about comedy. And when they know that I'm from Drammen, they ask about you.
Oi.
So that says something about your...
that's surprising.
That says something about the legend of Jon Gjerde.
Thank you. It's makes me a bit speechless.
Well, speechless is good sometimes, but you have to talk now. It's a podcast, so speechless doesn't work in a podcast.
Wise man, Jon Allen. Okay,
I'm
let's
so
talk.
Smart.
Let's talk.
This is a special edition. We're sitting out on my porch now. You guys know I've done episodes before on the front porch off of my studio with Snoopy, but this is on the back porch. We're catching the summer breeze. It's 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's too hot.
Oh yeah,
it's too hot.
Too much. Yeah.
You know, this is Norway. It's not supposed to be like this.
We are not used to it, but it's very, very welcome when it happens.
Yeah, I shouldn't complain. I told you earlier, I'm not one who complains about the weather. You know, I take it as it comes. And actually, it's pretty comfortable here. We got a good breeze. And so we have an outdoor studio today.
Very nice. Very good weather. Sun. Jon Allen in good mood. Me in good mood.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. You've been over here. We've had coffee and chit-chat one time, I think, in the last year since I've known you. And that's not enough.
I know that's not enough.
That's not. Whose fault is it?
I guess it's mine. I'm too much jumping up and down.
Now we have things to do, don't we? We're busy men. We're men of action.
Yeah,
we're active.
A lot of energy.
No, but you're the kind of friend, Jon Gjerde. I haven't been to your home yet. You've only been here once, but we do see each other on a regular basis in relation to stand up.
Yes.
And I have to say this on the air. I don't think I've ever said this on my podcast before, but you were the initial inspiration for me to start stand up.
Oi,
do you remember how that happened? Do you remember the first time?
At Union Scene?
It was at Union Scene a little over a year ago. It was in March of 2019. Mm-hmm. And you had arranged a show, and there was a couple of people who were supposed to show up for open mic.
Yes.
And they dropped out. So you put a message out on Facebook asking, is there anybody out there who would like to step in?
That's right.
And I'm so crazy, I raised my hand and I stepped in.
You stepped in and you were brave, and it worked. It worked.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Are you being too kind?
Nope.
No, well, thank you for that, but I think it did work. It worked in the sense that I broke the ice.
Yes.
The mysteriousness of stand-up was gone because now I had done it. I had my wife there. I had a couple other American friends who were there. So I remember I just made sure I acted as if I was speaking to them. I know I've made them laugh before.
Yeah.
So I focused on them and everything went fine.
It's very, very important to get a good start.
It is. Did you get a good start when you began with stand-up?
No, I got the worst start you ever could dream about.
Did they throw rotten tomatoes at you? Because that's the worst start I can dream of, is if they start throwing food at me.
Not the rotten tomatoes. I think they threw krone sticker.
Well, those hurt. Those coins, Norwegian coins, they hurt.
Yes.
That 25 kroner coin is a pretty big one.
I think they threw about 500 kroner at me.
Well, you got paid at least.
To make me close my mouth.
You got paid at least.
It's a long time ago.
Really, was it a rough time the first time you went on stage?
Yeah, I was very nervous. And,
were you?
And it influenced on my performance.
Yeah.
So you got to have the nerves under control.
Do you still get nervous all these years later?
Not nervous, but I got a lot of energy.
I noticed that. Now, you in general, I think I've only seen you as the MC for the night, conferencier as it's called in Norwegian.
Yes.
But I see you get kind of work. You get a little. I don't know. I see the energy building up, in a few minutes before the show starts. And, you get a little bit bouncy in your feet and stuff. So that's that good kind of nervous energy that you're building up.
Yeah, you get to have something to push you.
No fear. Fear doesn't motivate you when you're up there.
No.
You
Fear just makes you do nothing.
You don't worry about having a bad set or no.
No.
And does that come with experience, or is that just your way of breaking through that iron curtain that can fall when you're on stage to perform? Do you just throw fear out the window, or is it just not there at all because you're so experienced? That's a hard question, maybe.
Difficult to answer, very black and white, yes and no.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mix, because you got to balance it, because if you get bound by the energy, then it stops. So you got to use it to move forwards.
Yeah, you can't get so excited that you forget your material, and that's happened to me a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid when I'm up there, but I do get nervous. I guess it's that nervous energy, that positive kind of energy. But sometimes I can get so hyper that I start to forget my material.
Yes,
that's happened to me a couple of times.
I've seen that sometimes, John Allen, but you're so controlled besides, so they don't.
Nobody notices.
They don't catch it.
Maybe they just noticed that I had a little bit of a shorter set than I had normal because I forgot my material, so I just wind it up and I'm finished a couple minutes early.
But you have your own, what you call, experience from other scenes, and I think
music and whatnot.
A lot of that.
I definitely, I use that. The experience I've had on stage with music. I definitely use that in a stand-up situation.
Yeah. During the years when I started for about 20 years ago and more, the context and the material was much simpler than today, because
I can imagine
today's audience knows a lot more. The artist knows a lot more, are more well educated, and things happen much faster. So to get the context and the references is a challenge.
Do you think maybe the Norwegian audience has seen too much American comedy? Do you think they've seen too much of people like Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy back in the day, Kevin Hart, so that maybe they're expecting that kind of comedy, but just with a Norwegian context? That social commentary type of thing that we do in America.
Some have surely seen it on Netflix and on the.
Hey man, it's not his first language, but I think he's doing fine.
Yeah.
You guys should hear me try to speak Norwegian. Good Lord.
What I tried to say was, you seen it from the streams, streamed tapes and YouTube and all that, and people, it's too much because you can't sort it out, and
and I think a lot of garbage comedy is out among the public because of YouTube, or just because of people filming. I personally, I don't know if this will cause any trouble in the rather small Norwegian community of stand-up comics, but personally, I don't like it when I see people in the audience filming me. I don't like it. I'm not ready to be filmed. So far, this past year, I've just been trying out new material. And sometimes it works fantastic. And I keep that material and I try to build on it. But sometimes my material doesn't work. I'm new at stand-up and the material is definitely new. So when I look out and I see somebody filming it, it's like, I
don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's not right. I wouldn't want to sit and stare over a painter's shoulder. You're a painter also, by the way. I wouldn't want to sit and stare over a painter's shoulder as they're painting that picture. I want to see it when it's finished. I want to allow them to make their mistake and maybe throw it away before they present it.
But back in the good old days, in the 90s, early 80s, if you went to a concert and on the ticket it was written, it's forbidden to film.
Yeah.
Filming not allowed.
And people respected that.
Yeah.
But now they get almost offended.
Everybody has got smartphones.
I actually confronted somebody on this past weekend on Saturday in Oslo. A lady, I'm going to give up part of my act here, I guess. Some lady was filming me with her cell phone. And I said, please don't film me. I don't want anybody to record what I'm doing. I don't record you when you're in your bed. I'm gonna take away. I don't record you. Yeah, you know what I'm getting at. I don't record you when you're in your bedroom making preparations for whatever you're going to do with your husband. So it got a good laugh, and she put her phone away. So.
Oh, that was a smart way to handle it.
Sometimes I'm quick on my feet, not always.
Okay.
Now, speaking of quick on your feet,
Yep.
when you're out there, are you using? Well, I don't know how much of an effort, because you've been in the game for a long time. How much of an effort do you make to update your material, or are you recirculating old? This might be an insulting question, but just talk about what you do as far as, he's nodding his head. Yes, that was an insulting question. But just talk talk about your creating process.
Yeah.
How often do you come up with new material to present? Do you try to do something new every time?
Not too often.
Okay.
But I'm writing new material all the time.
Okay.
And I'm using small bits of it.
I see.
And then I see the reaction, and then I make some changes, and then I write another one. And I used to tape it
Oh, really?
to hear.
Just to, yeah.
So I'm a bit lazy, but when I'm working, I'm listening to the tapes, and I'm trying to find a direction to how to develop it.
So you tape everything through your cell phone or whatever. Every time you're on stage, you're taping it. Yeah, I do that as well, and it's a learning process, because some of the things, I don't know, I get kind of in a fog sometimes. Tell me what you think of this. I get in a fog, and I'm up there and I'm doing my routine, and I'm having a good time, but it's internalized. I'm not really seeing or noticing too much of what the audience is doing sometimes. Sometimes I'm very much in connection with them, especially if I'm talking to the audience, directly to an audience member. But sometimes I just go in this zone and I'm just doing my material. And I walk away feeling as if it didn't work. But when I listen to my recording, people are laughing.
Yeah.
It's a strange process.
Yeah, I think you're in a kind of bubble.
Absolutely.
Because you're concentrated. And
I'm too new still.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're delivering, so it's not so easy to catch what all the reactions out there.
Right. See, I need to get to that level of professionalism that you have, and guys like Bobek Namadi has. You guys are out there and you're doing your material, and of course you have to be focused and remember your material, but you still have that connection where you can improvise with the crowd. You know, I see you do that every time you're the MC, the confrontier, the MC. Your interaction with the crowd is amazing. I've learned a lot from it already. I have.
But to be a MC, it's a kind of, you have got the good sides and you got the bad sides with it.
What's the bad side of being an MC?
You can be too comfortable and too lazy to develop the material, because you know you can talk to them all the way without using material.
Because, yeah?
And you can save the material for another time, because it's the interaction with the public who makes it go.
Because in that conférencier, that MC gig is like a couple of minutes at a time, and then you get a long break, and then it's a couple of minutes at a time, and then another break.
It's also a question of balance, Jon Gjerde, because in my opinion, the MC shall not be the star of the show. He shall lift the other one so that she can shine.
That's a good point. So it demands a certain amount of humility, a certain amount of being humble and putting the ego aside, because, yeah, I guess I never thought about that. The MC is not the star of the show.
Some MCs are the stars of the show,
Well, maybe that's a bad lineup then.
It might work, but in my world, I want competitive with the other one. I
see.
want to lift them.
I see.
So, but it's a question of balance.
Yeah. Say balance. That's better.
Balance, yeah. So, but of course, I might forget myself sometimes and try to do things that really hits too.
Well, you know, you even though you're the MC, you're still a stand-up comedian, and if you see, I would imagine you see the dynamic of the crowd, and if they're really responding to what you're saying, maybe you'll stretch that out, for another couple minutes before you present the next stand-up comic.
It's human.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think anyone could blame you for that. Like I said, you're still a stand-up comedian.
Agreed.
Personally, I couldn't be an MC.
No, I'm not sure. Not sure.
Maybe sometime in the future if I want to stretch out and see what I'm capable of, but I think that's a hard job.
I agree. But I think in the future, when you get a lot more experience and a lot more things going, it might work.
It's there. It's there in my future, I think, but it's far away in my future. Talk about. We're going to come back and talk about a lot of other things, but talk about the stand-up show coming up tomorrow. Where is it? What time? And what's the significance of it?
It's tomorrow. It's 8 o'clock, and it's at Union Comfort Hotel.
Yeah.
Union Brygge.
Union, what would that be? Union Dock.
Yep.
Union Dock,
just beside Union Scene.
Yeah. Beautiful location. I love Union.
It's in the backyard.
Yeah, right in the courtyard. In the courtyard.
Courtyard. And it's a very nice area.
It's beautiful there. We're expecting good weather.
The last time we had a show there was summer 2019, last summer. That was Saint Khan, who tested out his solo show there. And that's
right. Yes, I missed that show. I didn't make it to that one, but yeah, I remember.
That's the last time we had stand up there.
Okay.
But this time it's a good lineup. It's Babek
Namadi. Yes.
Yes. It's Dan Ari Lykke Larsen.
Yeah.
Funny fellow, and it's Frode Simensen.
Yes, our Mjøndalen brother.
The one who loves Drammen.
Yeah, he has to sign in. Frode, make sure you sign in before you cross the border into Drammen.
Yeah. And it's, I mentioned John Allen.
Who's that guy?
That's, I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out who that guy is.
Weird one.
He's a stranger.
Yeah. And let me think.
That's what, 5 of us? 4.
Was it 4?
What do we say? Frode, Don, Lykke Larsen.
Yeah.
Babek.
Yeah.
Me.
Yes. That's 4.
Oh yeah, and our friend right down the street here.
Yes, it's 2 guest stars. It's Arne Funnebø.
Arne Funnybone Funnebø.
And Alexander Bastiansen.
Is he from? His brother lives in Drammen, I believe. But he lives in Oslo, doesn't he?
Yeah, Alexander lives in Oslo, but he's born.
But he's born here,
near Drammen.
Okay, yeah.
So
it's mostly local people. I think Don Lykke Larsen is from Bergen.
No, he's from Åmot.
Oh, is he? Oh, well, he's local too.
Odum.
Yeah.
But he's living up in the Etnedalen in Valdres. It is coming down together with Frode, who's on holiday up there.
Okay.
So
it's a good gang.
It's a good gang, and I think it's it's elastic. It's different people, different personalities, and
totally different personalities. Yeah. I've never heard Don Lykke Larsen. I haven't heard him yet, but I've heard everyone else who's going to be on that billing, and we are different. None of us are similar. Anybody that shows up is going to get a good evening of comedy. Totally different styles, and you'll be entertained. It will be interesting the whole way through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Although I don't think anybody would complain if they had like 5 Dave Chappelles. That's not a bad thing.
No.
But it's also good that we are a mixed crew here. We are people of vastly different styles. Actually, I think I'm the least experienced. I think everybody else is a veteran that you mentioned. Lykke Larsen, he's been at it for a long time.
No.
Oh.
2-3 years.
Oh, that's 2-3 years longer than me.
Yeah, but it's the moment that counts.
That's true. It's the moment that counts. Speaking of the moment, how do you deal? And I've talked with you about this before. One time when I had what I thought was a horrible set, and it really bothered me. I don't think I did that well at all, and it hurt me to my very core. Right. Have you ever had a night of stand-up where it just didn't work and you felt like you had to totally reevaluate what you were doing? Have you ever had that low of a moment in stand-up? You talked about your first time was pretty bad.
Yes. I think so. Many times before, back in the old days. It's when stand-up routines were new in Norway in the 90s, and the audience didn't know what they got when they went to a show. And
they almost didn't know what funny was in that context.
No. And most of the artists were unknown people. So,
I see.
And if you're an unknown one, it's much harder to get the respect of the audience.
I think so. You have to prove yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit easier if you got a name out there and people know you from some kind of.
Well, along that line of thinking, do you think somebody like Ali Khan, someone who is known, do you think it's easier for him to get a laugh just because he has a name already?
Sometimes, not always, because you got to deliver.
You do have to deliver, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
it's like the Rolling Stones. If they suck that night on stage, they suck. You know, they still have to perform.
They still have to perform, and I think it's the total energy of the team, the Stones, that makes it work.
Yeah.
Because they're having fun on stage.
Yeah.
Fun living.
At that age, how old is Keith Richards now? He's in his late 70s. Isn't he almost 80? 78?
78, I think.
Amazing. And I think, everyone talks about Keith and that he's still alive and that's so funny, he's still alive. There's a lot of jokes about that.
Yes.
But I'm more impressed with Mick Jagger because, of course, it takes a little bit of energy and a little bit of strength for Keith Richards to stand there for hours at a time, for all these years and play guitar. But Mick Jagger is dancing and jumping around and he's the front figure and stuff. And for him to still have that energy, at least up until recently, it's amazing. What is that guy doing?
I think he's living a very well organized life.
Do you think do you think it's just focus? Do you think it's just
he's focused and he's doing exercises? He's
a healthy guy.
Having a personal trainer, I guess, and he's having a kind of regime about food and drinking. I think it's very healthy. His father was a scout leader.
That's true. Yeah.
I think he got some wisdom.
He got a little discipline then from his father when it comes to health and all that, or at least he had a good example. Yeah.
So, and of course he has seen a lot of his friends go down.
I tell you, if I had a circle of friends around me and up through the years, if a handful of them were dying from alcohol, I think that would motivate. Yeah, I think that would motivate me to. I don't know. Not everybody can learn, though. But I think I would have learned my lesson.
Yeah. That's true.
Listen to those kids playing. This is a beautiful summer day here. I don't know if that's coming through on the microphone, but there's kids here in the neighborhood playing.
I think it's very, very nice.
Yeah, I was telling you before, you know this, I'm not a city person, but if I have to live in a city, living in this city is the best choice. It's very comfortable here and relatively quiet. We're right smack in the middle of the city, and you can hear how quiet it is.
Yes, it's very, very not quiet.
From the Rolling Stones to another British musical act, Rod Stewart.
Yes.
What? Yeah. Now he's sitting up straight with a smile on his face. What is your connection, or what is your appreciation of Rod Stewart? Where does that come from, and what's the story behind it? You talk about him in your stand-up act.
Oh yeah, yes.
Or at least as an MC, you do.
I had nearly forgotten that, but that's true.
Yeah.
I think Rod Stewart, he found out what he wanted when he was very young, and I think he listened to a lot of the American singers, to name Otis Redding.
Yeah, he loved Otis Redding.
Yes, and Sam Cooke.
Yeah, the good old Sam Cooke. Yeah.
Yes. And he learned to sing the soul and the rhythm and blues when he was very young. And the first records he made in the early 60s was terrible.
Yeah.
He was, it's like a kind of karaoke.
Yeah.
You're singing after the real one.
Now, he was a solo artist at that time.
Yeah.
He hadn't been with the Faces or the Jeff Beck group. No, he was solo at that time.
But I think his story, it's very, very, it's worth listening to, and it's worth seeing.
He's a man of passion, a man of a man who achieves his goals. He was a soccer or football star, as they say here in Europe, football, soccer.
Yep.
Did he go pro? He played pro.
He tried, but I don't think he went so far.
Okay.
But when he was still able to move around and play the ball, he was having his own teams.
That's right. That's the football connection, the soccer connection I was thinking of.
And he's a Celtic fan.
Yes, he is.
Always sitting on the good seats.
Yeah. When you're Rod Stewart, you have money to sit
Very
sit in those good seats.
Yes. But I think he's doing something for charity sometimes, especially in Glasgow, among the poor kids up there. So
that's right. He's Scottish, right? Yeah.
His mother and father were Scottish.
Scottish, yeah.
So he was living up in North London, and his father was having a kind of paper shop.
I see. So you have a few lines in your routine. At least as an MC, I've heard you say a few things about Rod Stewart. So that says something about your respect for the man and possibly for his music as well.
Of course, yes. I think I have a lot of his records, maybe all. And,
on vinyl?
On CD. I had on vinyl before, but I threw it away.
I see.
Takes too much
takes too much room, too much
and
space,
it's too much dust too.
Yeah, that is every once in a while, not very often, we do clean our house, and it seems like most of the dust in the house is on my LP, my vinyl collection. Yes. Yeah, are you a Neil Young fan?
I was back in the day.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of this podcast. You're not a current fan of Neil Young?
Neil Young? Who's that?
No,
I think Heart of Gold is a good song.
Sure, absolutely.
And
classic.
I was a fan of Heart of Gold, but I think he sings like a, what do you call it?
A non-singer.
He sings like a seagull.
He sings better than Bob Dylan. You have to say that. You have to admit that.
But Bob Dylan's got his soul.
Oh, come on! But Neil Young has soul. Young, okay.
But okay, but Bob Dylan has got some very good lyrics.
Okay, now it's my turn to be unappreciative. I just don't see. Okay, I will acknowledge that Bob Dylan is a legendary singer, songwriter, musician. Of course. But I personally have never seen the magic that people speak of in his lyrics. I just haven't. I'm sorry.
I think when you lived and produced so many records during so many years as Bob Dylan, of course you got to make some really good stuff too among that catalog. But he's done some really great songs like "Girl from the North Country," "Knocking on Heaven's Door," whatever. And
I think "Knocking on Heaven's Door." You know what? I'm a musician as well, but I'm not that good. But when I can play a song so easily and sing it so easily, there's no magic in it for me. To me, that "Knocking on Heaven's Door" is such a basic song. I don't see, I guess I'm looking for more out of Bob Dylan. He's never had any lyrics that have really grabbed me. There's no exceptional musicianship. The musicianship in his music is very basic. So I don't know. I just challenge people to tell me, where's the magic? What is it about?
Okay, I think
I'm being difficult.
Yeah, you're a difficult man. But I think some of the records made by Bob Dylan are great. Some of them are crap.
I like Jimi Hendrix's live version of Bob Dylan's "Like a Rolling Stone" that he did at the Monterey Pop Festival in '68. Have you ever seen that? Check that out on YouTube. Jimi Hendrix Monterey Pop Festival, 1968, performing Bob Dylan's "Like a Rolling Stone."
Okay.
Beautiful version.
Okay.
And for years, here's how little of knowledge that I used to have about Bob Dylan. For years, I thought that was Jimi Hendrix's song.
Okay.
but as we now know, it was a cover of Bob Dylan's version. I'm sorry, Bob.
Bob,
I guess I lost any chance of getting Bob Dylan on my podcast.
Bob has got been covered a lot of times by a lot of people.
He has been, yeah.
Even by Rod Stewart.
By Rob Stewart?
Rod
really?
Stewart.
Did he?
Yeah,
Which song?
A Girl from the North Country in
Of course, yes, yeah.
1974.
True, yes, that's
Smiler,
true.
Smiler.
Yeah. That was a minor radio hit in the States at that time. I can remember hearing that song when I was a kid. Yeah.
When you was a kid in 74?
I was 5 years old in 1974.
Oh.
I remember all that music. Some of my earliest memories are of music. I had a very musical mother. She played piano and sang, and she was very much rooted in gospel music, soul, and R&B, from that time, from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So I grew up hearing that in my home. And then on the other end, I can remember my father playing the Rolling Stones on the record player, Neil Young, Rod Stewart, things like that. I can remember him coming home from work and pulling into the garage, and we had one of those big old 70s vans, with the 4 seats in the back and all that stuff, with a big radio system. For that time, it was a big radio system. And I can remember hearing him pulling into the garage and playing, like Neil Young, Heart of Gold, or Neil Young, After the Gold Rush with the French horn. I remember that from when I was just a little kid. So I had all these different kinds of music.
Did your father sing and play too?
No. He just listened. He was very unmusical. I'm a decent musician. I think I'm a good singer and all that stuff. But then you have the polar opposite, which is my older brother. He loves to sing, but he has no voice for it. No voice? He has no voice for it. It's like a penguin trying to fly. It just doesn't work. The equipment is there. He has a voice, but he doesn't know how to use it. I'm sorry, big brother.
Poor brother. Well.
He's far away. He can't do anything about it.
Maybe he's listening to this sometime.
He might be listening to this.
Yes.
So tomorrow at 8 o'clock at Union Scene. I'm sorry, not Union Scene. Union Comfort Hotel.
Comfort Hotel.
In the courtyard.
Yes.
Weather permitting. I think the weather will permit. I think it's supposed to be beautiful tomorrow, just like today.
Going to be a very hot evening.
And what was that about the number of tickets? Is it 50 places were allowed to sell?
Yes, we put...
unfortunately, just 50, yeah.
Yes. If it's possible to sell 200 under those rules with
the corona and all that.
I don't think it's wisely.
Yeah, I tell you, if it wasn't for... we have to follow the guidelines that the government and the health officials have put out for us. But if it wasn't for that, I bet you we could have at least 150, 200 people there. People are ready for some summertime activity. So I don't think we'll have a problem filling up those 50 places that are available. And 50 people is a good crowd. That's a lot of laughter.
Yeah. It's a good crowd, and then there's got space between.
Yeah.
And you shan't push people to sit together.
What else were we going to talk about?
Well... You're
an acting.
Acting.
Mr. Hollywood.
Mr. Hollywood.
And action. No, you have a background in acting. Is it theater and TV, or just?
Honestly, to be honest,
I'm sorry, not TV, but film or theater or both.
Some theater when I was very young, and in the 90s, early 2000, some sitcoms and some
sitcoms,
some movies, from Hotel Caesar to NRK, Smørøyet. And
there we go. Now we got
a lot of short films. So I'm out there somewhere.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer theater? Do you prefer the television sitcoms, or do you prefer film? Because it is different.
It's very edgy to get the good challenges in films.
Yeah.
But if you go the back way, around and in the back door, it's a lot of stuff out there in the what you call in the shadows. Yeah,
kind of underground things.
Under the radar. And I've done a lot of stuff under the radar for the most, and I think that it makes me comfortable because it's
probably a good learning experience to do it that way.
And when the right people see what you've done, things happen.
So how did you get through the door? How did you get started with your acting? There had to have been some opportunity that arose. And can you tell us about it?
Yeah. It was, I think, back in the early 70s, when I was living out in the country.
Yeah.
It was a kind of amateur group which we joined, and I was the leader of it. So we wrote some small acts and performed it around at the hotels and around.
Really? So you guys were your own little improv group who wrote your own material and then went out and performed it.
Yes.
Interesting.
And once we hired a kind of instructor to help us to make our skills better.
Like an acting coach.
Yes, and the acting coach by that time was Trygve Hoff.
Trygve Hoff.
Yeah, he was a very, very respected singer-songwriter and acting teacher by that time.
Okay.
And he gave us a lot of help.
Okay.
And his son, Stig Henrik Hoff, has been a very well-known actor in our time.
Of course, yeah. I've heard that name.
But his father, Trygve, did believe in me and was a very, very good mentor.
Now, was this comedic films or was it more drama? What was the genre?
It was a kind of comedian, small acts for the scene.
Okay.
Not film.
Okay, just a little short film. Yeah. Interesting.
So, but it's a long, long time ago.
That's back when John Allen was a baby.
It's back in 75, 76, 77, I think.
Well, that's when I was sitting there listening to my father play Neil Young after the Gold Rush.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
So, but and I did when I saw the stand-up movement
start to get action
and race again in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I joined the comedians in Oslo.
I see.
I was around in the clubs.
Well, people know who you are. Like I say, I'm in Oslo the other night, and people are asking about you. Oh, yeah, you're from Drammen. Oh, yeah, you know Jon Gjerde. Yeah, tell him I said hi. Of course, I can't remember any of these people's names. No. But there were several people around my age and up over, people who would know, you know.
Yeah, it's a small world.
It is. Norway is I don't know, it's fascinating. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's kind of like showing how small Norway is. I'm doing that show in Oslo, and I run into one of my old students when I used to be a teacher here in Drammen. A little kid who was 12 years old at the time, and she's 30 years old now. I think she says she's married and has a kid. Okay. And it's like, that's just crazy, you know, that you can run into somebody like that so far away from this environment here in Drammen, but Norway's just small like that. And
I think it's very strange when you see small people grew up to be big people.
Yeah, it's just, and I recognized her right away, but it was very strange seeing her as a grown woman when I remembered her as a 12-year-old kid. It's very, very strange. And I look at my, I shouldn't say too much because I'm going to try and use this in my act tomorrow, but I look at my kids and how every day they look older. You know, the other day I get up to go to the bathroom at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm wondering who's this strange black guy walking around in my house. And it was my son. So it's just...
That's life.
That's life. They do get older. I miss the good old days, though, when things were so much simpler with them. Change a diaper, give them a bottle, and they're fine. And now they're one's a teenager, the other's a pre-teenager, and all the trouble that comes with not trouble, I shouldn't say that, but all the challenge. It's new challenges as the children get older. It's new challenges, but it's new challenges for us as adults as we get older.
Of course.
Where do you see your comedy life going at the moment?
Good question again.
Plans, big plans or anything, or what do you think about your comedic future?
Oh, it's been a very, very, what do you call it, when it's ups and downs?
Yeah, ups and downs,
yes, all the way. And of course, you got a lot of experience. You have seen a lot of people. You've seen a lot of lived life.
Yeah.
So I think I'll keep on a couple of years more.
Yeah. At least, I hope.
At least.
Like I said, you're the heart and soul of the comedy scene in Drammen. I personally don't know what I would do without your guidance.
One of the things that makes me work and go, makes me running.
Yeah.
Is that I met a lot of people out there who's trying to close the doors.
Oh.
Because they disrespect you or because they don't like your attitude or something.
Yeah.
So I found out that if I see people who's got a little flash of talent, I'll try to help them.
Well, and that's why people love you. That's why I love you. I think I told you this very early on in our friendship about how I appreciate, like I say from the very beginning, you were so accepting and if I ask you for guidance, you give it quite freely. And I think that that's important for new up-and-coming comics to have that mentor figure. And that's what you are to me. See, I'm an American. I say these things. Norwegians, maybe they don't say it. They may not vocalize those things, but I do. I look at you as a mentor.
Okay. Well,
and he's like, okay, stop.
I think that's very, very generous said, but
it's the truth.
I like to hear it.
Yeah, it's the truth, and I don't think the comedy scene in Drammen would be what it is without you.
It's the comedy scene it's a kind of dualistic.
How so?
You got the warm-hearted part of it and the cynical part of it.
I see. Yeah.
And,
well, which one is bigger? The warm-hearted part or the cynical part?
I think they're melting together.
You think, well, maybe that is why comedy is what it is, because it is a combination of, it's a combination of optimism, the way you want things to be, and realism,
yes,
the way things are. And within that, you find comedy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Isn't that true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I talk all the time about how I use my son's death, from his heroin overdose. I use that in my comedy routine. And that right there is the juxtaposition, the joining of the optimist in me and the realist, taking that piece of my life, as tragic as it is, but I think I see something in that tragedy that I can learn something from. And that's why I put it into my act. It's there's something therapeutic about that for me.
Understand that?
Yeah.
It's very, very heavy stuff, very, very personal material, and of course it gives a strong what do you call it expression.
Yeah, it's some heavy stuff. I mean, it's heavy material, and then the challenge is to try and use it to heal, and then use it in my comedy act and make it funny.
Yes.
And yet on the undersurface of the humor, there's a lesson. I don't think that's wrong. I think that's okay to put something like that into comedy.
Yeah.
I see some people in the audience, sometimes their eyes get this big. They can't believe I'm saying that. But I guess I say it for me. I guess I'm selfish in that moment, in that part of my...
We're living in 2020, and I think people should take that.
I think they can handle it.
Yes.
I think they can handle it.
It's honest. It's honest material.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. But it has to be honest, because I don't know anything else. All of my comedy is based on what I've seen myself and my own feelings and my own thoughts, as it is for you as well. I don't think you can get on stage and lie. I had somebody tell me, in fact, it was after the very first show that I did, and this Norwegian lady came up to me. And she said, your comedy is not the same as other black comedians, as other black American comedians. Okay. And I asked her what she meant. And she was a little bit embarrassed, but she ended up saying, well, your material isn't very ghetto, as she said. I said, well, if my material was ghetto, then it wouldn't be honest, because I'm not from the ghetto.
No.
So you have to have that honest element. You can't get up there and fake it.
Nope.
You can't. I don't think comedians are actors. They're not up there acting. I think they are telling stories from their own life experience.
Quite right.
Yeah.
It's very naked.
It is. Oh, very, very naked. But you got to be fearless.
Yeah. Fear kills the comedians. You can't fear. There goes my son walking down the stairs. Okay.
I think I'm going to do as long as the weather permits, I think I'm going to do every podcast episode out here.
Yeah, good idea.
This is comfortable.
Yeah, very
cozy.
nice. Very nice, very cozy. And it's very warm here. So.
Yeah, it's hot. I think we'd be boiling to death if we were in my studio. Too hot.
I was thinking about the studio when I was riding my bicycle down here. I thought, it's going to be a very, very hot evening.
Yeah, no, I
hope John Allen's got some water.
We're working on getting better ventilation in there. Maybe a ceiling fan if it's quiet enough, because I have to remember about my music. I don't just do my podcasting; I do music as well, so I can't have a fan that makes a lot of noise. So it's a bit of a struggle. Yeah,
you were on the TV last week about the racism.
Yes, I was on Good Morning Norway.
Yes.
Wow, that was an experience.
Very.
And the craziness of it all started before I even walked into the building. It's the studio is there at Aker Brygge, right by the ocean there in Oslo. Beautiful section. And I hadn't been there in years in Aker Brygge. I think the last time I was there was way back in 2004 maybe.
Okay.
I'm not in Oslo very often. So and I saw right away when I was walking through there that they changed a lot. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to find it. And then all of a sudden I hear in the distance a voice, Jon Allen. And there was a security guard waving me down. I guess he had seen a picture of me from somewhere, and right away I felt important.
Yeah, of course.
So this security guard waves me in, and I go in, and I go into the green room, and I look through the window, and there are the two morning show hosts in there getting ready to start. And it was just unreal. And then the next person I saw was that beautiful weather lady, Isabella Carlson.
Carlson, I think, yes.
Beautiful lady. I've had a crush on her since I came to Norway in 2002. And then to see her there.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she goes, "Oh, det var du." That's you, to say it in English. Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's me." And I said, "That's you." And then the producer came up to me and introduced herself, and I asked the producer, I said, "How did Isabella Carlson know who I was?" And she says, "Well, the whole crew has been talking about my case for several days, because it all started from that one podcast episode, episode 28 of my podcast, where I was talking alone on the microphone about what's happening back home in the States." Mm-hmm. So they had been talking about, and right away, it just made me feel welcome. It made me feel important, and it's just a crazy experience to be able to speak from that platform.
Yeah.
And know that the entire country is listening. Mm. So I'm quite fortunate. I'm very humbled.
Fantastic.
By that. Oh, I'm very humbled by that experience, and it's kind of funny because when I do my stand-up, it's like when I do my podcast or when I do my music, I just speak English. But otherwise, I speak Norwegian. But everyone in the stand-up area, most of them thought that I couldn't speak Norwegian. So I got all of these messages already when I was on the train on the way home from that. "Oh, I didn't know you spoke Norwegian." I'm like, yes, yet another aspect of the great Jon Allen.
Yes, he got many sides.
I'm not so great, but it was very interesting though to be there. It was quite the experience, and to be honest, I want to do that again.
Of course.
We'll see what happens. I don't want to say too much, but there might be some more opportunities like that coming up, and I will be sure to let people know when it happens.
Cool.
But what's next for you? When are you going to do an hour-long special, Jon? We want to see Jon Gjerde on stage alone for 1 hour.
Yes. Now maybe it's plans for 2021, and it might be a kind of warm up in the autumn of 2020, but it depends on the situation about COVID-19 and all this.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a thing.
Okay.
I am.
It's is it something that you would want to film and make available for people to download? It's not that expensive to do that, you know.
Well, it might be an idea, of course, if the delivery is good enough and I feel comfortable.
If you feel comfortable, I had set myself a rather high goal of by December of 2020, I wanted to have an hour's worth of material, but of course now all that is out the window with this COVID thing, and I haven't done anything for almost 4 months.
I saw you and Babek at the other side of at Bragenes. Was it before Christmas?
Yes, when Babek had his that is actually, and that's very interesting because that was very early in my career. I think I started in March. In fact, the second time I went on, which was in the last days of March 2019, that's when Babek asked me to open for him for his 1 hour special.
Yes.
And I was very humbled by that, and I thank him to this day for that opportunity. But that actually is the longest I've ever been on stage. I think I did almost 25 minutes that night.
I guess so, yes.
Yeah, almost 25 minutes.
You kept on.
That was fun, though. And it was strange because the crowd was such that I was able to improvise probably at least 10, 12 minutes of that. It was all improvisation. But that's because the crowd was so good.
Yeah.
When you have a good crowd like that and you see certain facial expressions, or maybe they try to heckle you and they say something, and then you can... I can't remember what they said. One of course, Babek is our Iranian brother. And he had a lot of family and friends also from Iran who were out there. And somebody in the crowd, I can't remember exactly what they said something like say something black or something like that. And I didn't respond directly to that, but what I said was, and tell me if you remember this, Jon. I said, who's running the lights here? Can you please turn down the lights? Because the glare from all that hair grease and gold chains on these Iranian bastards is just too much. So that was my way to get back at, and that was totally off the cuff. And that's the kind of crowd I like.
Yeah.
When the crowd is like that. And also in Myeongdong with Khan, that was a crazy crowd. They were very drunk by the time I got up, and that's when I'm best, when I can improvise like that.
Of course.
Because like I said, I'm so new and I get so hyper that I start forgetting my material. But if there's an interaction with the crowd, then I can improvise.
Gives it much more dynamic and also energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember that evening up in Mjøndalen.
That was fun.
Very fun evening.
That was fun.
It was a good crowd, and it was we had Side Alley was very, very great.
That might be the most fun I ever had, actually, that night in Mjøndalen.
Yeah. You were funny too.
Oh, thanks.
It was a great lineup too.
It was a very good lineup. Everybody was good that night.
Yeah.
Everybody was good that night. But again, that's a crowd. Those are crowds that have a little energy. Maybe they've been drinking a little bit more. But one of the worst nights I had, and this was terrible because I had been on the radio with what's his name here locally on the radio, Kim Holton.
Kim Holton, yes.
I'd been on the radio to promote a music thing I was doing with the fantastic Miss Ellen Eggen, I'm sorry. And in that interview, I also talked about, and tonight I will be, this was at last summer at the Kulturnatt.
Yeah, Kulturnatt in
the culture night. Yeah, at the Gummibarn. So I'm hyping this show and I'm telling everybody to come out, and we had a pretty full house that night, and Kim Holton was there and he sat right in the front row. Yes. And that is the worst night I ever had.
Oi.
Yes,
Why?
I was trying new material. I couldn't remember anything, and nobody laughed. If this was a video podcast, people would see the look on my face. There were so many people sitting there like this when I was doing my routine, and there was just no feedback, just nothing.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't remember, but I do.
Forgot it.
Remember, because you were the MC, and you had a fit of coughing. You started coughing, and you needed water. Do you remember that night? And yes, no. So I that's probably the worst.
It was a very, very hot evening.
It was very hot. It was very hot.
Like tonight.
See, now you're making me feel like I'm going to bomb tomorrow, like I did that night because of this. No. But it was very embarrassing because Kim Holton came and sat right in the front row and was ready, was expecting, okay, give it to me, Jon Allen.
Yes.
And I had nothing to give. It was a terrible, terrible performance.
I think you're a bit too humble because it wasn't so terrible. But anyway.
Well, I'm very hard on myself. I know I am.
I know, but I think it's a very good way to do it, because if you're too comfortable,
you have to care. Yeah, you have to care. You have to try to push yourself and take it a step further.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to push.
Yeah.
And that's the way. That's the way to make development.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to be the same comic today that they were a year ago. Everybody wants to have a progression.
Yes.
Everybody wants to have a progression. I guess that goes back to the question I asked you at the beginning, is how often do you renew your material? Because I guess that's the challenge of being an MC. You have these little 2 and 3 minute bits before the next artist comes on. How do you keep that fresh for yourself? Of course, if an audience member has never seen you MC before, everything you say is new to them.
Of course.
But the challenge and what inspires me is that someone like you, who has been doing this for so long, you're still able to keep it fresh for yourself. That's very inspiring.
If I didn't keep it fresh for myself, I had nothing to say.
So the first audience member that you're trying to impress is yourself, right?
Very good question. Very good question.
I'm a good podcast host, Jon Gjerde.
You're a podcast star. Of course, because if I'm going out feeling lousy, feeling like I'm just picking up some old material from the far back in my brain, it won't work. You got to fill the material with emotion and with energy and vibes. And of course, you can cover over it sometimes. You
can, yeah.
But it's not the best way.
I would think that someone like yourself, who's been in this game for so long, somebody who's new like myself, there's most of the people who see me when I perform are seeing me for the first time. So it's all new to them. But you've been in the game for a long time, and some of these people may have seen you several times. And I would imagine that you feel a responsibility to not only keep it new for yourself, but to keep it new for these people who have been seeing you for, a decade or two.
It's not comfortable if you're going to repeat yourself all the time. So you got to make fresh material, also for the public.
Well, and there's no artist who paints the same picture every day.
Some artists just paint the same picture with a little twist sometimes.
That's true. Didn't Picasso do that? Or no, not Picasso. Monet. Didn't Monet do that? He had several versions of the same picture.
Even
Munch as well.
Munch did the same.
Yeah.
About Scream.
But isn't there more than one Scream?
No, it's many Screams.
Yeah.
So he's made several versions.
How long have you been an artist? You paint. How long have you been doing that?
Since 1995, I guess. I worked as a copywriter in the advertising business in the 80s.
Oh, really?
And about 15 years.
Okay.
Wrote commercials for companies.
Really?
But in the mid-90s, about 95, I did a kind of change. So I found a more cultural interest. So I started to draw and started to paint. I went on the art school in the evening.
Now what you do mostly is paint, right? Or do you draw also?
Yeah, I draw a bit too.
Okay.
But I paint now and then. And it's kept going up. It has been done so in the last 20 years.
20 years.
23 years.
So what do you do with all these paintings? I see from time to time you make a posting on social media. What do you do with them? Are you selling them, or are they stacking up in the attic somewhere?
I tell my daughter that you got to take care of these pictures because it's going to be very, very, very expensive, and it's going to be a lot of money for you.
But you have to die first.
Yes.
Isn't that how it always is?
Yes. But sometimes I have some exhibitions sometimes.
Do you? Okay.
Around, and I can't say that I'm selling very much, but because...
A little. You're selling a little, probably.
Because it's my own babies, and I won't quit them.
I see.
So, but sometimes you got to do it.
Now, how does it work to set up an exhibition? Do you do all that yourself, or do you have someone who books you for an exhibition? How does that work?
It's different ways to do it, but in my case, I'm doing it myself.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and it's... I think it's about... it might go a year, it might go 2 years, and then maybe we'll do something.
I see.
Not too often.
Not too often. No. So you have a very relaxed relationship then with your painting. It's not like you're trying to to push it out on the public? It's mostly just for you, a pastime for yourself?
I got to feel comfortable and feel that I got something to tell.
Yeah.
And in the periods when I'm doing a lot of stand-up and other things, I don't paint or draw at all because I'm not in the mood.
I see.
But I got to concentrate and I got to stop the phones and I can't see too much, too much visual expressions. I got to focus.
Okay, so you can't have too much outside stimulation. No. You have to have that focus on the painting.
Yes.
What kind of mood do you have to be in to paint? And the reason I ask is because when I look at your paintings, there's a certain kind of almost like a sad, melancholy darkness. And when I say darkness, I don't mean like dark as in evil. I mean dark as in low-key, sentimental, melancholy type of thing. Yeah. That's how I, as a fan of your painting, would interpret much of the work you do. Am I wrong?
No, it makes me a bit happy because it's a kind of, if you call it blues attitude in it, especially in the black and white drawings.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a kind of sad mood.
I see.
And I don't know where it came from, but
it's there somewhere.
It's there somewhere.
Interesting.
It's I think it's about being honest when you're doing things, because in our time, the 2020s, people seen too much of everything, especially visual expressions. But if you hit a nerve that's very personal and it's your own, they might think, aha, I haven't seen that before.
Interesting.
So it's about that.
That's very well formulated, and you said it in English too.
Surprising.
And you said it in English too.
Surprising. I learned. We kept for about an hour now.
About 1 hour, 1 minute and 30 seconds we've been talking now, according to my mixer. So I'm not that wrong. I'm not wrong at all then in my description of that feeling or that mood that's in your paintings then. So do you think that, okay, mission accomplished? People are understanding my painting. Do you need to be understood in your painting, or is this more for you?
It's a combination, because I want to prove that I'm able to do good stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're doing good stuff and nobody knows it, nobody sees it, it's not worth anything.
That's true, yeah. I think about my music. I could write the best song in the world, but if no one hears it, it's not the best song in the world.
You got to get feedback.
Have to get feedback, absolutely.
And, I think the most of the things are happening about being seen, being heard, and being respected.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing these things.
A friend of mine, a musician friend of mine, told me that she thinks that stand-up comedy is the most difficult of all arts. At the same time as it is the most honest form of all arts. And what she was getting at was that the feedback that you get when you're doing stand-up is immediate. If you're funny, they're going to laugh. If you're not funny, they're not going to laugh. If you offend them, you're going to see it.
That's true.
If you make them think about something, deep thinking, you're going to see that. So the feedback is immediate. It's instant.
Yes. Right.
So of the art forms that you do, you've done acting, you're a painter, and you're a stand-up. Which one do you feel you are able to express yourself the most with? Acting, stand-up, or painting?
I think the painting has reached a kind of level, but it's a very few people who knows about it, because I can't say that it's many people who's putting me in that box. From reasons I don't know, but I think as long as you're having the will to develop yourself and to work on progress, you can reach new skills, both in painting and acting, and also in the stand-up bit.
Absolutely.
And for my own kind of self-respect, I have the most to win to gain a kind of career in the stand-up bit, because
that's what you think you can be the most successful in.
I can do it much better.
I see. Much better. I see. Yeah.
Than I've done so far. But of course, a lot of people that knew who I am in that.
Well, you're definitely a pro, and you're definitely well respected. I like I said, I aspire to be as good at stand-up comedy and as comfortable with stand-up comedy as you are. When I see you up there, I'm like, that's me when I grow up. I want to be like that when I grow. I mean that, yeah.
That makes me a bit touched.
Yeah, well, it's my honest take on the way.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure. It's my honest take on you as a stand-up comedian. You look so incredibly comfortable. In my time here in Norway, being a stand-up comic and seeing others, I don't see anybody who's as comfortable up there as you are. I haven't seen it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I've seen a lot of guys do it, and nobody's close, in my opinion.
Oh, that touched my heart.
That's the kind of guy I am. I touch hearts.
Oh, I'm very easy to touch. No, not so easy.
You have your limits. Oh boy. Well, listen. I want to thank you for coming here. You've been here before, but thank you for coming this time to be on my podcast. It was fun.
I must say, on my own behalf, thank you, Jon. It was a very, very pleasure to be here, and I hope I entertained the audience out there away.
I think you have. I think my listeners outside of Norway have gotten to hear some interesting words from an interesting man, Mr. Jon Gjerde, and I think also that my Norwegian listeners, those who are fans of stand-up comedy, and maybe some of the stand-up comics who do listen to my podcast, have got to hear a side of you that they may have only gotten a glimpse of as they pass you in the halls of some stand-up club somewhere. And now they get to hear you talk about things other than stand-up as well. So they've probably gotten to know you a little bit better as a person.
Thank you.
And maybe there's some rich person up in Holmenkollen and also who wants to buy some paintings.
I think that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Well, listen, Jon Gjerde, thank you for doing this, and you are welcome here anytime, whether it's on the podcast or not.
Thank you, Jon. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast. I am your host, Jon Allen. If you want to send me any information, you want to ask me anything, you can do that at john@johnallenpod.com. That's JOHN at JOHNALANPOD.com. Jon Allen, the Coming Home Podcast with the same Jon Allen. Thank you, everybody. Bye, everybody.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Yes, I am. Yes, I'm coming home. I'm coming home.